if I had to get R1 for every awkward question that I am asked, I would probably be a millionaire and retired. Guys, so many people have problems with orchids. They don't understand them, they get stressed out about them, and they're worried that they're going to kill them. Now, let's keep it very simple. As long as you've got the right growing conditions and the right feeding regime, you will be okay. We've got an easy solution for feeding, which is very similar to watering, and we're going to show you how. Depending on the type of orchid that you have, and it's always important to understand the name of the orchid, that will depend on what orchid food you're going to use at different times. Starke Ayres have two different types of orchid food, one called flowering orchids and one called growing orchids, and they obviously are used at different times. So it's important to know what type of orchid you have, because there are many different names. You get Vandas, Phalaenopsis, the moth orchid, Oncidiums, and even Cattleyas. So if you have an Oncidium, which flowers late autumn, early winter, they need to set spike during summer. So it's important that you then start feeding the flowering orchids to set the flower spike, set the bulb growth during your summer period. That's when you would use the flowering orchids. Makes sense to get them to put on the green growth and the thick bulb set. So let's break it down and keep it very simple. Flowering orchids is a combination of nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. This product is used when you want to promote flower spikes. So it's not when the plant is in flower. When it's in flower, the plant is doing its own thing. That's when you sit back and enjoy it. So when you have a plant like this Oncidium, which we want to bring into flower spike, that is when you would use flowering orchids, because it is very high in potassium. So if you have a look on the bag, on the little doy pack here, it says 6, 8, 24. What does that mean? 6%, 8%, 24%. So the highest number, 24, okay, means that 24% of this bag is made up of potassium. Potassium, which is the K, encourages flowering. So that makes sense. So always remember your NP and your K, that is how it's divided into. Remember that your flowering orchids also contains a lot of trace elements. In your trace elements are iron, manganese, boron, zinc, copper, and molybdenum. So flowering orchids would be used to encourage flower spike set and, of course, bulb growth, because orchids are essentially bulbs. They have modified stems at the base, and that's what you want to get. You want to get thick bulbs, good healthy roots, which are then going to, of course, in turn, produce beautiful flowers. The second orchid food that you would need is called growing orchids, and that makes sense. This is when we want the plants to be able to put on lots of green growth in order to be prepared to set on the spikes, because if you don't have green growth, the plant is not going to be able to photosynthesize enough to put all the energy into the flowers. So this would be soon after flowering that you would then start applying this, preparing the plant for its next season. In your growing orchids, you will notice that the first number, which is nitrogen, gives you green growth, improves cell division, which means that you're going to get lush green leaves. And you'll notice that that number is much higher. So that is 30% is nitrogen, 10% is your phosphorus for root, 10% is your potassium, which in flowering was much higher. Okay, so you see, all it is it's a switch now, because we're wanting to put on lots of green growth. And it's very simple. You would use either of these products every 7 to 14 days as a good drench, and we'll show you how. It's important every few weeks just to give your orchids a good flush of plain water to remove any residual of the plant foods that might still be in there. Remember, both the foods have lots of trace elements, which means that your orchids are going to be getting the right food at the right time. The easiest way to apply this fertilizer without wasting is the following. Just simply get a Tupperware container, 5 liters of water. You can even do it in your bath. Follow the instructions on the doy pack. It's always important. And in it, you get a little measuring guy. This over here is 10 grams. For all your orchids, you would use 5 to 10 grams. So in between is fine. One of these capfuls into your 5 liters, pop it in there, give it a good stir. If there is some residual left, in other words, it won't fully dissolve, don't stress about that. It's a normal process. So give it a good mixing here. And then when it comes to watering, which you would do once every 2 weeks, you would just take the orchid, pop it in here, splash a bit on it, leave it for about 20 minutes to really get all the nutrition in it. Once the one guy is done, you can take it out and add the next one in. And so the process continues. So you're simply just using that instead of wasting water by watering with a watering can onto each one. With those Vandas, which are these guys over here, isn't it spectacular? These are the guys that hang from trees. All you would do is just pop the roots in there, nice and easy. And you could also do this with the spray bottle. Let it lie in there, leave it there for about 20 minutes, and exactly the same process.